Let me start with something that most people in the market still do not fully understand. The HIMS short squeeze may not be a future event. It may already be starting right now. And the reason is one major piece of news that changed the whole story around this company in a very short time. We've been speaking about this for a while now, but we've seen a different market structure, short interest, sentiment, and major change in the story investors were pricing into with HIMS. Only a short time ago, many people believed HIMS was in serious trouble. The stock was under pressure, short sellers were attacking it, and regulators were watching closely. And the fight with Novo Nordisk made the whole GLP-1 story look like it was breaking apart, but then the story flipped after hours Friday when this report came out. Now, this is yet to be confirmed. We're going to see a lot come out Monday. Right now, it is Sunday, the 8th of March, so maybe we've already opened the stock market on Monday before you see this. But when a stock with heavy short interest gets a sudden positive shift like that, things can move very fast. And today, we're going to break down why HIMS and HERS could now become one of the most explosive turnaround stocks of the year. We're also going to talk about how the news with Novo changes the whole setup, and I'll walk you through how a short squeeze actually works. And we will explain why the move towards $40 starts to make more sense than many people realize. Let's get stuck into the video.
Welcome to the game, it's the Instant Stocks by Mikhail Kuhar.
And if you don't know who I am, my name is Mikhail, and one of my highest values in life is freedom, and also helping my fiance with her dog rescue center. But outside of that, I'm a big believer that you need two things to experience true freedom in life. One, you need money, and the other, you need time. Because if you have all the time in the world and no money, you don't have true freedom. If you have all the money in the world and no time, you don't have true freedom. That's why here at X10, we developed over the last 4 years that AutoPilot software that allows you to have 100% done for you trading. You can switch it on every single day. We have a team of pro traders that are watching the markets and investing hundreds of hours every single week to pick our winning trades. This month, so far, we've had a 100% win rate. I'm going to show you here. If we look at the summary of last week's trade, the end of week results were up 50%. And not only that, for the last 40 trades out of 45 trades, we've been in the green. And our average winning trade is 141%, and our average losing trade is negative 31%. And if you're interested in the type of trades we take, we only take very high liquidity trades, and we're very selective in what we choose. We're big believers that you do one thing and you do it really, really well. You don't need to be in every single stock and every single position. Last week, these are our trades here: QQQ, Palantir, and Coin. These are the 4 trades we traded last week, and everything we do is through Interactive Brokers, one of the largest brokers online. And we aim every single month to get 5 to 15% returns on the money. Why do we have 5 to 15%? Because the data we've collected over the last 4 years has shown us that is what we average, anywhere from there every single month for our clients. If you were to invest $10,000 in 12 months' time at our current projections and the current results we've seen, you would be at $54,000 in the next 12 months. We have one client here that made $6,000 in one trade the other week. Our highest priority is capital preservation. So we don't have massive fluctuations in your portfolio. We're looking to stack consistent wins over a long period of time because we know compounding results is the thing that really gets you to a place of true freedom. If you want to find out more, x10trade.com or click the link below. I'll jump on a call with you personally and we'll go through that. Outside of that, let's get stuck into today's video. So in this video, you're going to be understanding 3 big things. First, why sentiment around HIMS got so bad in the first place. Second, why the new update with Novo may have completely changed the market's view of the company. And third, why that change matters so much when the stock already has very high short interest. We're going to make this very, very simple and break this down on a high level and then look behind the curtains and see what's actually going on. Just a clear outlook on how a stock goes from deeply hated to suddenly being chased again. It's coming through its redemption phase, because when fear turns into hope in a crowded short trade, price can move faster than logic alone would suggest. Now, to understand why this matters, we need to rewind a little bit, because just a few weeks ago, sentiment around HIMS was terrible. We can see all these headlines here. Investors hated the stock, short sellers were confident, and the market believed the company had a real problem. The biggest issue was the public fight between HIMS, HERS, and Novo Nordisk. Even the DOJ and the FDA starting to be mentioned in quite a few of these articles. And of course, this is going to drive a negative sentiment. This is going to have all the bears up in arms saying, I told you so. Now, Novo is one of the largest drug companies in the world. It makes some of the best known weight loss drugs, including Wegovy and Ozempic. Now, those drugs are part of the GLP-1 market, which has become one of the biggest growth stories in healthcare. This matters because weight loss is not a small category. It is one of the largest health problems in the world. At the time of reading this, I looked this up the other week. My home country, Australia, I think we're about about 64% obese. I know America's around 74% obese. So this is not a small problem in the world. This is a very, very large problem. Japan, put the stats up here on the screen. You guys are absolutely crushing it. I think you're around 30% or so. You guys are nailing the health and fitness side of your whole culture and lifestyle and your society. So I hope Australia can get there one day. And I really hope we can start to see those numbers improve, because honestly, I believe this is a massive, massive problem in the world. My entire life, I have been very, very strongly devoted to health and fitness, gym, basketball, sports my entire life. And I know just from a mental standpoint, not just a physical, not from a vanity standpoint, which is why a big part of I did start in the gym, how you actually feel as a person on the inside. And I feel like if people are able to get on top of their health, their fitness, and their weight, their lives will fundamentally get better. I'm not saying it's the one-stop solution for everything, but when products like this hit the market, your friction to result, meaning like what you need to go through to get the result you want, or what you need to go through right at the start when you're not training, you're not lifting, you're not eating well, it's very hard to break ingrained habits and patterns. Sometimes it's not just a matter of being more disciplined in showing up and doing stuff every single day. That habit is so deeply ingrained, it starts to tie to our identity and who we believe we are. And then the story and the belief and the identity structure start to carve out how you see yourself in the world as a human. And any company that is bringing products to the market where you can remove this resistance, this friction to just start, to make a step in the right direction, I'm a big fan of this. And it is one of the largest health problems in the world, obesity. So when a company finds a way into that market, investors really pay attention. And that is what made HIMS interesting. But it also is what created the trouble. Earlier this year, HIMS introduced a low-cost compounded version of a weight loss pill linked to semaglutide. Now that move caused immediate backlash. Novo pushback. Regulators started paying a lot of attention. Now the lawsuits followed. When the market quickly assumed the whole GLP-1 opportunity for HIMS might be falling apart, and that fear crushed the stock. The price dropped really hard and short sellers became more and more aggressive. At one point, more than 70 million shares were sold short. That is not a small number. When that much of a stock is sold short, the setup becomes very unstable. A good way to think about it is like a spring being pushed down harder and harder. And the more pressure that builds, the stronger the move can be if the spring suddenly releases. Now, this is what a heavily shorted stock can look like. Everything seems fine while the price is going down, but the moment the story changes, all that pressure can reverse. Now, if you're unsure of how short selling operates, when someone shorts a stock, they essentially just borrow shares to sell them. They're hoping the stock goes lower so they can buy the shares back at a later, cheaper price. If the stock falls, they win. If the stock rises, they lose. But here is the key point. At some point, they have to buy the shares back. That means every short seller is a future buyer. And when a lot of short sellers try to buy back shares at the same time, that is how a squeeze begins. Now, if we look at why this setup suddenly becomes very, very interesting. After months of legal tension, reports came out that Novo Nordisk and HIMS may now be resolving their dispute moving forward together again. This was after hours on Friday. Like I mentioned before, by the time you see this video, we might have different headlines by Monday. I'm hoping we don't. I'm hoping this goes ahead and works very, very well. But this is a potential for a huge shift. A lot of the times, investors and markets do not wait for 100% certainty. They follow narratives, they follow direction. And this is that huge shift that could be happening. The company that looked like it might block HIMS from the weight loss market may now help bring its drug onto the HIMS platform. And that is not a small update. That changes the entire narrative. That changes the entire story. And it is the difference between being locked out of a room and suddenly being invited back in. And then the market reacted immediately. The stock surged hard after the news. And that type of move does not happen because of a minor rumor. It happens when investors realize the old story may no longer be true. Before this news, many people believed HIMS might lose the GLP-1 opportunity. But after this news, the market started asking a new question. What if HIMS becomes a digital door into one of the biggest drug categories in healthcare? That is a very different lens to look at it through. That is a very different idea. And that is where the squeeze setup starts to matter, because a short squeeze does not happen just because short interest is high. A lot of people miss that. High short interest by itself is just not enough. You also need a reason for short sellers to doubt their own thesis. And that that is what this news may be doing. It attacks the core reason many of them were in the trade in the first place. And if they were short because they believed the Novo fight would break the HIMS story, what happens if the fight starts turning into a partnership? What happens if they do come together? Now the trade becomes much more dangerous. And once price starts moving, the pressure builds really fast. So there could be quite a few exiting, or they might be forced to buy the stock back. And the first stage is the headline action. You know, the news comes out and we see moves in price. That is when the stock jumps because investors are reacting to new information. The second stage is really a discomfort stage. This is when short sellers start looking at their positions and thinking maybe the trade is no longer safe. The third stage is when they start getting into the buying stage. That is when shorts start covering, and every short that covers has to buy shares. That buying pushes the price up more. Then more shorts feel pressure. Then they buy too. That is the loop. And once that loop starts, it can feed itself. It can have a snowball-like effect, but the effect is actually going up as the price rises. This is why people compare setups like this to names like GameStop, Tesla, or Carvana. Not because every stock is the same, but because the mechanics can look similar. And in all of those cases, the market became too confident in one direction. Then something changed. And when price moved the wrong way for short sellers, covering added even more fuel to the fire. Now, GameStop became famous because the move was extreme. Tesla had major squeeze as the business kept proving more people wrong. Carvana had a huge rebound when the market shifted from disaster mode to survival mode. Now, the common pattern was not perfection. It was the negative sentiment, crowded shorts, and a sharp change in the story. That is why HIMS is getting attention now, and the setup has some of the same ingredients a company people just had completely written off. If you've seen some of the comments under my videos, you'll see how negative the sentiment is. And if you spend any time on X following investor channels, you'll see how aggressive the bears are and how this whole DOJ, FDA, Novo case was the thesis around what a lot of traders were saying. And the stock had a very high short interest leading up to that already. And one major piece of news that could force the market to rethink everything is this. Now let's talk about why $40 is not a random number for a price guide. Let's say the stock was trading in the mid-teens before the news. A big move takes it into the low 20s, which we're seeing this right now. $22.45 is what I've seen today come out. From there, another strong momentum wave can push it into the low 30s. And if the story keeps spreading, if more shorts start covering, and if more buyers start chasing the move, the next big area becomes around the $40 mark. This is how squeeze math often works, not in a straight line, but in waves. It is not linear. And one wave from the news, another wave coming from short covering, and another wave from just the momentum and FOMO starting to kick in. Now, this entire move is not only about value, it becomes more about force. And that force comes from many different buyers showing up at once. We've got news traders, momentum traders, retail buyers, and short sellers trying to get out. These are 4 different traders all coming in at the same place. Now, if we go one layer deeper, because this is not only about mechanics, it's also about the sentiment of the company and the stock. The market does not move only on numbers. It moves on how people feel about those numbers. And sentiment in growth stocks can swing hard. At the top, everyone believes the story is amazing. Then something breaks and suddenly everyone thinks the story is dead. And that is often where the best turnarounds begin. Us here at X10, we've been averaging down and buying in from 20 all the way down to the mid 14s. And this is where I believe the best turnaround is starting to happen. Not when the story is clean, but when it is dirty and when the story looks broken and then starts to recover. Now, that may be where HIMS is now. A few weeks ago, the stock looked really damaged. It was uncomfortable to buy and many people were hating against it, but many investors just stopped paying attention after this. The market had already priced in a lot of fear. People's mind were made up. And when expectations get that low, it does not take perfect news to create a big reaction. It only takes news that is better than the market expected. And that is why this shift with Novo matters so much, because it tells investors the worst case story may not happen. And once the market believes the worst case is off the table, it starts repricing the stock. That repricing can be powerful, especially when short sellers are still leaning the other way. There is also a business story underneath all of this. HIMS is not just a random meme stock. It is a digital healthcare platform. It connects patients with doctors, prescriptions, and treatment plans online. This matters because healthcare is moving towards easier access and minimal friction into people getting results. People want just like what they wanted when Blockbuster went down and they moved to Netflix. People want it fast, they want it simple, and they don't want to have to leave their house. They want direct care instantly at a touch of a button. We live in a society society now where you can get anything at a touch of a button. So it's almost normalizes it as an expectation of when people want a result or a solution to something. And telehealth really fits that trend. Now, if we combine that with one of the fastest growing healthcare markets in the world, which is weight loss treatment, this is where the bigger opportunity starts to show up. If HIMS becomes a real access point for branded GLP-1 drugs, then the market may start looking at the business very, very differently. Not as a company trying to work around the system, but as a company that may become part of the system. That is a major upgrade in how investors could value the business. Think of it like this. There is a big difference between standing outside a store trying to sell a copy of a product and standing inside the store with approval to sell the real thing. That is the kind of narrative that investors may be reacting to. Now, if this shift sticks, the stock may still have a lot more room than people think. There might be a lot more upside on this. Now, none of this means the move is guaranteed. We still don't even have confirmation on Monday morning if this is legit and this is going ahead. But short squeezes are volatile. You need to be prepared for this. So they can move fast both ways. And there are still real questions the market want answered. For example, what are the full terms of any future partnership? What are the percentage deals? What does that look like? How much revenue could HIMS actually make from it? How broad is the setup? How will regulators view the category from here? Those questions really matter, but markets do not wait for perfect certainty or perfect clarity. They move when the balance of the story starts to change. And right now, that is exactly what may be happening. The story was all fear. Now it may be shifting towards possibility. And when that happens in a stock with heavy short interest, price can move much faster than expected. And sometimes the price moves can be very illogical. So the big idea is simple. HIMS may have already entered the early stage of a short squeeze, not because the company became perfect overnight, but because the market may have been leaning too hard in one direction. And one major piece of news just forced a reset. The same stock that looked broken may now be getting a new story, and the same company that looked barred from the GLP-1 market may now have a very direct path back in. And the same short sellers who felt comfortable only days ago may now be facing a very different risk. That is why $40 no longer sounds like a random target. It sounds like a level the market could test if the new narrative holds and the buying pressure keeps building. So the final question I'll leave you with today. Are we just seeing a sharp bounce from oversold levels, or are we watching the first stage of one of the biggest healthcare short squeezes stories of the year? I am personally very long in this. Whatever happens over the next few weeks, if we go down, I will be averaging in lower. If we go up, let's keep going up. And if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening in the world of HIMS and hers, subscribe here. You've got my other channels here. I'll be bringing you 10 videos every single day of this. And if you want me to speak to a certain video, a certain narrative, a certain idea, drop it below in the comments and I'll be looking at making videos around that for you as well. As always, see you in tomorrow's video.